Hey everybody, welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture, and we are back in the saddle once again for another season. And I do have a sponsor for this episode. My good friend Paul Gomez has an exciting new book out with masterful art by San Espina, Gargoyles versus Demons in an epic battle. And every story has a beginning, and this one starts before that prequel to Aurora. It's now available on Kickstarter. I'm actually a backer of this book. I'm very excited for it. It's going to be a fun one. Paul's coming on tomorrow night. So we're going to talk about his book tomorrow night, and it's going to be a good one, and I recommend everybody check it out. And I will just say this, and Paul did not tell me to say it, but I promise you that you will get your book if you back this campaign. And I know that's a big issue in Kickstarter land of getting your books within a reasonable time. So if you're one of those people that says, hey, I want my books, well, Paul's going to get you your book relatively quickly. But I digress because I have with me comic creator Brandon Starocci. Hopefully I got your name right. It's a little tricky. I'm sure if I
Close.
got it wrong, you're going to correct me, though. I'm positive you will.
Yeah, you were close. It's Starocci, so you're on the spectrum there, so you're good.
But anyway, welcome back to the show.
It's good to be back. It's been a little while.
Yeah. I'm busy. What can I say?
I
I'm
know.
busy. I get people in when I can. Things happen, and also I take breaks every once in a while from the comic realm because sometimes you need a break. But
Of
enough
course.
about that, because I believe you have issues 4 and 5 of Avalon sort of coming out soon, being launched soon, relatively soon, and I definitely want to talk about 4 and 5, where the story's going, what exactly is happening. But let's catch everybody up on what is the basic premise of Avalon and everything that it's dealing with, and kind of for those who have no idea what this book is.
Yeah, so Avalon is a zombie kind of genre comic book. There's a lot that is going to be going on in Avalon. It's grounded in a lot of reality. We're not going to be following a hero's journey like we've seen in the past with other storytelling things. The main character is going to be the Castle family. You follow the Castle family through this apocalypse kind of brewing and all that, and the other main character would be the world that we're creating alongside with the family. So anything's possible in this world. Fans of the zombie genre and The Walking Dead can tell and just know from what they've watched that nobody's really safe, and we're making it that way very similar in the way where the world dictates what happens. So we have a new kind of infection. You're going to see the infection develop over issues to come. You're not going to know the exact kind of origin of this thing or how this thing is in the beginning. You're going to see it kind of progress over issues to come, and it's like I said, big focus point that we do as well is realism and mental health as well. We really want to kind of shine a light on that stuff and make that stuff known in this kind of world, and even in our world, we deal with it, but elevated in such a higher level in this world that we created.
Yeah, let's dive a little bit into it, because this is what's interesting about your book, is that the infection and stopping at any point is almost the backdrop, I feel, and the impetus for this fractured family and these 3 brothers who clearly something happened that strained their relationship, and then an infection breaks and occurs, and now all of a sudden they're in this small town, kind of a Midwest town, and they got to deal with the realities that, well, people are getting infected. People want to hurt them while they're infected and infect more people. There's real threats going
Mm-hmm.
on. And there's the issue of this relationship either coming together or becoming more fractured, or parts of it healing and parts of it breaking. And it's very interesting. We don't really know in the first issues why, at least in issue 1 and issue 2, why and what strained that relationship. But what is this like? Because The Walking Dead is not about a zombie apocalypse. It's about humanity dealing with a problem. And this seems very similar. It's not necessarily them dealing with the apocalypse. It's saying, how do we coexist as people?
Sure, and that's very well said. Everything you said up to this point as well, and that was one of the things that really grabbed me into the world of The Walking Dead in itself. I'm a big zombie genre fan. I love zombies. I love the possibilities zombies could bring to anything, and this is one of those possibilities that The Walking Dead showed, and a lot of people can grab onto as well. And and that's the biggest question, though: is this going to be another Walking Dead? And for us to kind of show or prove to the audience or whatever, yeah, we're going to have some traditional values like The Walking Dead has as well. You kind of have to keep those traditional values in the zombie genre. That's what makes it the genre and about zombies and all that stuff as well. But there's going to be a lot of new, different things that we kind of incorporate in our story as well. And really making it a blood family relationship. The drama is elevated to the point before the apocalypse even starts. And then on top of that is just grounding it in some sort of reality. We're really focusing on the mental health aspect of it, like I already said, and also like health issues. Like people have to take medications, people break bones, people have cancers, have diabetes, have sicknesses. And in past projects I've seen, they touch on it very subtly and they kind of push it into the background, and that's it. Like, okay, this character's, yeah, this character has diabetes. Bye. And with our stories, we're really going to show that. And one of our things that we kind of are hang ourselves up on too is like everybody's going to be able to relate to every single character. There's nobody that's going to be able to be left out in issues to come. Everybody's going to have somebody to relate to, and we're going to make this as real as possible. There's so much stuff that happens in the world today, and we're putting it as much as we can of it in this world that we created.
Yeah, let's actually talk a little bit about that too, because this is one of the things that I think is one of the biggest criticisms of The Walking Dead is that what if somebody has, a disease, then there's no medication.
Right.
It doesn't really come about. And I understand why they didn't want to touch upon that because there's a million other stories that the Walking Dead deals with. But it is a lacking component, and apocalyptical stuff is very relevant. I'm a big fan of Dr. Stone, which is coming out. And Dr. Stone is obviously everybody gets, stoned for like 2,000 years, and then they come back and society has sort of regressed.
Mm-hmm.
But also you have a scientist who's, and a guy who's really smart trying to reinstitute all this technology. And there's issues of medication, and there's something where a character is like anemic. And so he invents medicine and he invents antibiotics,
Mm-hmm.
for this village. And so it's very interesting when that's on the table too. And it's a complicated issue to tackle. And so what is that like? Because there are choices and there is medication still around, but there's also a diminishing supply of that at some point where the
Yeah.
antibiotics are going to run out at
And,
some
and
point.
right, exactly. And this is kind of like the other end of it, where, how he comes into this new world and all that stuff. And now in this way, we're here, in current time, and then we're going into a stone age and like bringing everybody down and, taking away social media and all that good stuff. But with the physical problems as well, what we had to deal with, in real life years ago with the infection going around in that aspect, people, there was times where people weren't getting their medications. People, were stressed out about certain supplies and all that stuff too. So we could all relate to that. We all went through that. We all understand that. We saw it on TV. And that's the thing that makes it relevant for everybody to know with this story that we're telling right now with Avalon too. It's that, but on another level, because people are actually getting sick, infected, and attacking people and all that stuff as well. So you have these zombie like, infection things going on as well. But it's almost like that could happen. We were very close to something like that, minus the fictional zombie character and all that stuff too. Because there's a lot of scare. There was a lot of fear that everybody was dealing with every single day. And am I going to be able to get my medicine? This place closed. This place closed. This thing is at a halt. That was a fear that everybody had to deal with, and we're all going to see that in Avalon because that's the same fear that we're bringing into this story that we're telling because it's similar. At least in the beginning, it's similar. Everybody doesn't know what's going on. Everybody's kind of dealing with it at face value. What is this? We have to go home. Are we going to work tomorrow? These are all questions that these characters are going to have to ask themselves. And that's the interesting thing for me writing this as well is where is everybody's heads at? Where would my head be at? Where would everybody else's heads be at? If this thing is going on, this chaos is going on, the next day comes, you're thinking to yourself, what the hell was that? Do I have to go to work? Should I call off? Are we going to work? You're waiting for that like kind of call, like even with like the infection we had to deal with last couple of years or a couple of years ago, that was the same thing. You're like, am I going to work tomorrow? Am I waiting for a call from my boss saying we're closed today? Don't worry about coming in. But
It's very interesting. And then obviously, I mean, you have a more complicated issue, obviously overarching and then underarching. And then obviously you have the whole Castle family. And then,
mhm,
they're dealing with it. And then one of them is a cop.
mhm,
And I'll say it, the nicest way I could say, where there's situations that are now popping up.
mhm,
And there are circumstances where you got to make a determination, and you come across you know somebody being infected and they're attacking you, and what do you do? And then also there's issues where you're being surrounded, and maybe you're not even being surrounded by people who are infected, but you're somewhat being surrounded by people who maybe want your car or your gun or
right.
ammunition or your badge or something else. And I think that sort of starts happening a little bit. And so, what is that like? Because it raises another question. And then also, who knows if there's some deep rooted history? And if you're in chaos and you're a cop and you wrong somebody on the street, what other perfect time is there to do something when chaos is ensuing?
Sure, and that's the thing that was cool with the last couple issues that we did too. Where if you read them and you can kind of see that we're sprinkling something in with Andy and Miller. Something happened in the past, and it's reflecting on them. You have people kind of watching them, and you could even see like there's a F the police thing on the gas station. So you can kind of see the setting that we built for the police in that town or that city that Andy and Miller are in right now as well. So it's a cool thing that we're going to be working up to, and for everybody that's reading it, you're going to kind of see it over issue to issue to issue to see what happens and to see what it builds up to, and we're excited to kind of show that as well. But like you're saying though too, with Andy or Miller trying to make these decisions as they're dealing with these problems face value, you walked like even with issue 1 for instance, a routine welfare check. They hear welfare check, they go to see who this is, they knock on the door, then it starts to turn into something more. They walk down the hall, the blood and all that stuff. So then it starts to build up fast, and the person on the floor dead, and then boom, and then they find themselves fighting with somebody. Picks up immediately into issue 2. So you kind of have to like play it at face value, like I mentioned too, is like it's one of those things where you don't know what the hell is going on. You don't know what to do. You have to live in the present right now and deal with the problems right in front of your face. And that's, I think, the good thing as a team that the Avalon team kind of does right now as well, is making sure all that stuff makes sense in the long run as well. Dealing with face value problems, and then how it is relevant for the future and where we're going with it, at least for the first season, the first 6 issues.
Yeah, and then obviously, I mean, this is all leading in because something sort of does start taking place in issue 3,
Yeah.
and it sort of leads into issue 4 and issue 5. I mean, issue 3 is called The Last Christmas, and
Yeah.
obviously, when you have a title called The Last Christmas, you know, it's not a very uplifting, positive title for your issue 3, to say the least. I don't
Right.
get the sense that Santa is coming anytime soon. And I don't think that in a year from this issue in the book, at the very least, that next Christmas is going to be much better.
Oh
In
no.
this
Oh
circumstance.
no. Oh no, that's the thing though as well, is that kind of issue kind of fell into place perfectly. It came out around Christmas time, which was great. And then obviously the story is taking place like right before Christmas, right after Thanksgiving, like first week of December-ish, so leading up to Christmas, you're like, okay. And then like, the last Christmas, this is it, and all that stuff as well. So no, there's going to be a lot of stuff this family and the characters that you meet are going to have to deal with, and I'm really excited for people to see it. As Demetrius is doing the artwork for the next couple issues here as well, as it makes me excited to, it's one thing to write it on paper and see it all scripted out and cool and great, but when Demetrius kind of gives me the art back and all that stuff too, it's just phenomenal. And the way he does his artwork as well. And like I mentioned before the show started too, we added Callie Oberlander to the writing team, and she will be doing a lot. We touched up a little bit of season 1, and she'll be a main part of season 2 as well going forward. And to kind of give her background a little bit as well, she's a writer, she does short films and all that stuff, and she has her own podcast that's actually called the Tia and Ria Show. It's on Spotify and iTunes. Real quick, I'll shout that out. But also on top of that, she writes a lot about mental health and mental illnesses as well, and and she brings a whole new level to what I want to bring into Avalon. So in season 2, there's going to be a lot of that. And I think she's going to add this whole unique kind of thing that I couldn't get to by myself. Adding her to this whole team is definitely going to make this thing Avalon jump on a whole new level in season 2 and so on. So with that being in mind too, because season 1's wrapping up, season 1's going to end this year. Issue 6 is going to come out by the end of the year. 4 and 5 are coming out as well. That's what this Kickstarter's for. And then season 6 is coming out, or issue 6 is coming out at the end of the year, and then boom, it's season 1, and we're moving quick.
Yeah, so let's actually talk about this too. So let's actually get into some inside baseball. I don't want to ruin too much, and obviously issues 4 and 5, I think, are still in pre-launch on Kickstarter, from my understanding. Yeah. And I don't want to ruin too much, and I don't want to spoil too much. But what is this like to set it up as seasons? Because some people like setting it up as arcs. Some people like doing continuums. Obviously, seasons tend to be more of a TV thing, but it's not the first time that I've heard somebody in comics want to set something as a season. I've heard people want to set things up as a volume in some degree, where it's volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. Some people use arcs. Some people, use, hey, my first 6 issues are this title, and then they add like a subsequent title. So my friend Travis Gibb does Granite State Punks, and then he does Granite State Punks Breaking the Edge. And then when he does a third one, he might do Granite State Punks something else. And the reason why is that, I don't know, he wants to keep the same name, but he wants to make it so that it's different. But I'm just curious the reason why, because it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, no, so it goes back and forth. When I say season or volume, it means the same thing to me. It's one big arc. All those words mean the same thing to me. And the way I look at it, because I'm so, like, I guess, film minded, I just want to think film and all that stuff, and even like the camera even like listing the pages and all that stuff. I'm like, okay, camera angles, so it just goes back and forth so many times. But 6 issues per volume / season is what I'm doing, and if I think there needs to be a part 2 to that, I'll just do part 1, part 2, volume 2, say, would be part 1 and part 2, so on. But yeah, there's right now with our standard cover for the season / volume, it's just changes are coming. It's very basic, because changes are coming, and all that stuff too. So we wanted to make that our kind of theme with season 1, that the changes are coming. We have this apocalypse up in front of us, when we kind of link up, because it's inevitable that the family links up, and what kind of changes have been there. We haven't been, like you said earlier in the show, Andy hasn't been around a lot. There's obviously some sort of animosity between the family and Andy, and maybe he wasn't there and all that stuff, and you come to find that out in the next couple issues that we're doing the Kickstarter for. But there's a lot to look forward to, and kind of see what happened, why Andy was away, what the family's kind of perspective of it all is what they think about Andy being away is, and all that, and what even happened with the family while Andy was away. We're learning this all at the same time in a parallel line. The reader, you're seeing Andy's side, you're seeing the family side, and it's being told parallel to each other. So it's just going to be a cool, unique way to hear both sides of the story, and you as the reader picks if that was justifiable or not, or whatever the case might be.
Yeah, and I don't want to go too deep into that, because obviously that's coming. But I do want to dive into some inside baseball with all this stuff. And obviously you're doing issues 4 and 5 at the same time. And that I'm now starting to see a lot more of being done on Kickstarter is double issues. Mm-hmm. I'm also seeing, obviously the people at Silverline Comics, Roland Mann's company, they do 2 different issues at the same time, and they do a double feature. And they have an option where it's a flip book, which is awesome. And if it's
that sounds cool. Yeah.
You can flip it. It's so cool. It's like old school, but you could also get them just as single floppies if you so choose. But there does run the risk where it tends to be more expensive. Mm-hmm. There's also, the idea of you have to produce more work. You have to, pay your artist faster, and you have to hope your artist works faster.
Sure.
There's a bunch of other stuff, and it's also the idea that when you start going into issues 4, 5, or even 3 and 4, and it's kind of, it could not end well, because you're raising the temperature up and you're raising the risk up, but also there's things of timing and time versus money as well. And we're also in an era where people need more content now.
Yeah.
Where,
Yep.
I want all of my, I guess, TV at once. I mean, I don't know how you are, but I'm a Netflix binger. So when Cobra Kai comes out and the whole season comes out, I want to watch the whole thing in a day or two.
Sure.
And
No, I
I
get
don't
it.
think with comics, I think that's one of the biggest problems is that waiting every month or waiting every 3 months in indie or every 6 months is really hard. It's really hard.
And that's the thing though as well, that in the indie kind of community right now, if you're an independent comic book reader, that's kind of the nature of the beast. And if you're just kind of sitting around waiting for the comic that you love, it just, all I could say from that perspective would be like, just do what you can to support them. If you love the comic book and you want it to be faster, that's the best way to do it. Share, tell people about it. Word of mouth is always great as well. Like I've told people in the past, is Avalon's always coming out. Avalon will always be there. There's not, even if we, for whatever reason, don't hit a Kickstarter goal, it's coming out. It's just a matter of when. And that's why we do the Kickstarters. And that's why we put these timelines on ourselves so we can kind of challenge ourselves and make sure this content does get out in a timely fashion for people who do want to see it. I want to see it. I'm a fan of this thing as well as anybody else could be, because we have a whole team around here. We have great ideas. I love Demetrius's art. I love to see it on paper. I love to look through the comic book and all that as well, but that's the thing. It's just making the Kickstarters, word of mouth, sharing content, letting people know what it is and getting it out there as much as possible. And even to touch on what you were saying about the double issue, kind of, putting it out there, that is a concern you have to have. That's why communication is key. You have to talk to the whole team. Is this possible? What can we do to make this possible? If so, talking to Demetrius, he's very confident that this is going to get done. Both issues, he can grind them out, and so far he has been. We're moving along right now. Issue 4 is almost done with all of it. He's working on the covers right now, the standard covers. I kind of popped that in there as well. He's got the pencils done with that. He's working on the pencils of the issue 5 standard cover. There's also going to be a variant for each issue as well. So it's just to show you the dedication that Demetrius has and the confidence that he has and the ability that he has, and how we've already given the result 3 other times, with 3 other Kickstarters. We're here, it's happening. We're getting this done. This isn't something where if somebody's hesitant, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, this is getting done. We had a big talk. We all understand the stakes. We all know what's going on and all that stuff as well. And it's happening.
So to even go into this a little bit more, because obviously double issues, if you're getting 4 and 5 out, I don't know if that speeds it up for you per se, your production level, or if it's more along the lines of saying, look, there's a good breaking point, or we're just going to try to push it because people do double issues for a reason. There's only, I feel, 3 reasons to do it. A, you think you get more money for having 2 issues out instead of 1. Mm-hmm. And that you're, trying to, you could demand more money and get it at a, I guess, higher rate because you could charge $18 for 2 issues versus 10. Mm-hmm. Sometimes is the key. The other reason is that it speeds up your entire production rate, where instead of producing, 6 books, you're able to produce 8 for the year. And so if you have a story that has 16 issues and you're able to produce 8 a year, you can get that story done in 2 years versus having to do it every 3 months with 1 issue, which is more 4 years. And,
sure.
And then the other thing sometimes is that people hate doing Kickstarters. And so they say, this is hard. I would rather put in a lot of effort, invest some money in Facebook ads. I'd rather do 100 shows in a 3-month span. And then I don't have to do this for 6 months, but I'm still going to get my 4 issues out. And that's usually what I think it is, as just somebody who observed it. And I've seen all 3 where people really say it's a lot of effort. And I would rather do 2 Kickstarters, have 4 issues come out, issues 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4, 6 months later. And in the process, I'm going to go create what I need to create in those 5 months in between. And it's a very interesting thing that I think is going on, because I think all 3 of those things have merit in a lot of ways. So I'm very curious what your thoughts in going into this, if it hits all 3 of those, if it piece of that, or if there's another reason that I haven't seen yet why you're doubling up.
No, I would say it has bits and pieces of all three, like you're mentioning. You grab the more money. The more money is to make sure this comic is getting printed. And the timing thing as well. There is a bit of a timing issue with it when you have two issues coming out, and because you're working on them, and then you have to make sure everything's staying steady and you have a good pace with everything as well. And because I had a goal, well, the whole team had a goal. I kind of told everybody when we had we had a meeting and all that stuff, and I told them what I wanted for this year, and everybody thought it was possible. It was good. We wanted to get 4 issues out this year, wrap up this season. The season 1, and that's what I was telling you earlier on in the chat here as well. As issue 6 right now is coming out at the end of the year. We're wrapping this up, and beginning of next year, we're going to be making a volume book. The books that you can buy with all the issues in them and all that stuff as well. And we have some cool ideas that's coming up in the beginning of next year for that as well. We're really excited about that. But right now, we're really focused on getting these 2 issues out, making sure we can get a certain amount of money to make sure this gets printed, to make sure the money goes in where it needs to go. Like I've said in the past interviews as well for the Kickstarters that we did in the past, is this money is it's always going to be getting pumped back into it. No matter what, it's getting pumped back into it. And then it gives us opportunities to go to events, to see new people, to go in front of new eyes and all that good stuff as well. And it helps with the Kickstarters, because we all know that buying into events, depending on how big it is, can get very expensive, especially the table, and then especially the stay, wherever you go, if it's out of town, so that's all the stuff that this helps with for us, at least.
Yeah, and then even going further into inside baseball, and obviously going to cons, marketing, it's very complicated. There's a reason, and I was speaking about it last night, is that I haven't been to a con in 4 years, and I don't have a product. And even when I do have a product, and I'm obviously entering the stage of exclusivity and exclusive variants, I mean, I'll be very honest, I am doing better than I've ever done on the internet. And it really raises a question: is that you need conventions? And I might be the one guy who says I might never ever do a con, even if I have a comic book, because between Kickstarter and having an online presence, to me, it almost seems that is just as important, if not more important. And I feel like COVID has proven that concept, that people think cons are king. I take the opposite approach, where I actually think cons are okay, but I think internet online presence is way more important. Somebody making a TikTok short who's an influencer who has 10 million followers on TikTok might be more influential for my book than me going to New York Comic Con.
Sure. Right. No, and I could see the side of that as well. I'm somebody who thinks that it goes hand in hand almost. You have to have that internet presence. And, I think it's more depending on the kind of person you are, but it's enjoyable for me and the creators of, everybody that goes to the Comic Cons with me, is just, to kind of talk to these, the people that are interested in our book, and, seeing their reactions, letting them know what Avalon's about and all that good stuff. And then having that kind of conversation with people as well has always been fun for me. And, even on the flip side of it, going to a con as a visitor, I guess, and then being able to see somebody who's a creator and talking to them and seeing their, all that good stuff. And that was always fun for me. And I can't speak for anybody else but myself, obviously, but, I'm a big person. I'm a big believer. I think it goes hand in hand. You have to have that internet presence. Like you said, like that's a huge thing now. You have to be good at that. And I think you still do need, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I'm still relatively new at this. I think you still kind of need that face presence too, that physical presence, and then kind of showing people like that you're there, because to them, it seems like it's a little more real to them. I don't know. I feel like it would for me. Like if I saw somebody and they went out of their way to go to a con and they have all this stuff, like a banner, all these books here, it's a little more real. It's a little more like, okay, they're serious about this. That's just my opinion on it though.
Yeah, no, I have a very different opinion, but then again, I'm also selling exclusively online, and I'm doing better than I've ever done. It's like,
well, right, you have the proof though. That's what I'm saying.
It's the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest thing where I'm doing better than I've ever done, and I have more access than I've ever had. And this is why I'm so confused on it, because pre-COVID, I didn't have the access that I have in my business, and even getting exclusives and meeting people and engaging. And that's why this is so confusing to me, is that I don't even know anymore what's what. And also I hear weird things where now it's like being at certain cons can be very lucrative, but being at other cons sometimes is a disaster. And I also, hear people saying, look, I'm going to a music festival to sell my book. I'm not going to a Comic-Con to sell my book because I'll rake in $3,000 at a music festival
Really?
and I'll rank 1,500 at a Comic-Con. And so their book is music oriented, but it's that the people at the music festival are starving for something beyond, a t-shirt. And it's very interesting where I'm now hearing things. And then Paul Gomez, and we're going to talk about this, is that he does very well at store signings. And he doesn't do so, he does okay at cons, but his bread and butter is at store signings. And so it's a very interesting dynamic we're in, where I don't think that 3 years ago that this would have been that you could be almost exclusive store signings that will make your money on your comic book versus going to a con, which is a ludicrous thought.
Yeah, no, and that's something though as well. I've been to the one con right now in my hometown con. I've been to a couple other events as well, outside of here, but not Comic Cons. I've been to one Comic Con, and that was our Erie one. And we made out pretty well there. We're going to Cincinnati Comic Con this coming year as well, and we're going to our Erie one as well, and we're looking to get into more of them. But I've been to the Horror Fest and all that stuff too. But I do truly find myself making an impact at the signings. Going to the local comic book store or comic book stores outside of local, and kind of taking it from there and doing all that good stuff too. But that's the thing that we find ourselves in too, is making money in that category. And like you said, just being out there, I think it's the interaction. I think it's talking. I think it's chatting, and people, like you said, people are looking for new things. Especially locally. People love to help local, depending on where you're at. But outside as well, you really got to sell it. And when you sell it and somebody's into it, then there you go.
Again. I run I guess a national business where I ship all over the country. And I don't deal with people directly in my eBay store. And so I'm in a weird position, and, it's just my merch sells itself, and that's the whole thing. And there's a reason why I buy what I buy, and there you go. But obviously when I do a comic book, I don't know exactly what I'm going to be doing. And I'll be very honest, I don't even know if I'm going to do many signings because I want to make myself exclusive.
Sure. Yeah.
Interviews, but I want to make myself exclusive, and I want to make myself an event versus being at every store signing, being at every Comic-Con, because I think it actually raises the prestige when somebody only does 10 Comic-Cons a year or 5 a year, because then you have to be there for them versus if they're at 20, 25, Comic-Cons a year. And I get why people do that because they sell well there, but they're not an event anymore.
No, I could see that. I could see that side of it as well. It definitely does make sense. And like when you do look at the big actors or creators or whatever it is that way, where they'll go to 10 rather than 20, 25, and then they go to them, and it's kind of a big deal. They're on the top of the con kind of page, like, oh, guess who's here? This so-and-so, and that's a good point as well. I think it's, you just have to find the most important thing is you have to find your crowd, and who's going to look twice at your comic rather than not. Because with the indie community more now than ever, there's a lot of projects. It's flooded, so you have to really dig in deep in the jungle there and find your crowd and go, okay, you would like my comic, you would, and find the people that is worth investing the time in and selling to, rather than being like coming over here, somebody who likes space sci-fi. I'm not going to try and go, oh, come look over here at my zombie comic. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you got to find them. You have to really dig in deep now. And I think that's a good thing. I think, there's a lot of independent creators out there and a lot of projects out there for people to see and find. It's just, you have to really dig in deep as the creator and make sure you're finding these people.
Let's actually talk about that too, because that's really interesting. And this is one of the things that I think was interesting about your third campaign, to be quite honest, is your third campaign was very different than your first two, where it was almost, hitting towards that niche exclusive collectors market. And I think we're at a stage in Kickstarter, and this is just me as a consumer, where I feel that I can go on Kickstarter. We right now can go on Kickstarter. We can find 50 great projects that are all equal. From everybody from Boom to somebody who we've never heard of on their first project that just looks awesome. And I think you would agree with me on that, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so the top from the bottom, you can find 50 great projects. And then it goes down to, cool, how different is this? What are they providing rewards? What collectability are they providing? What exclusivity are they providing? And what are they trying? And, Tom Hutchinson from Big Dog Inc. was saying that on Kickstarter, you need to experiment with ideas. He just did International Pillow Fight Day for Big Dog Inc. So every cover and the story was around that theme. And he did probably like 12 to 15,000 in 3 days. It's a 3-day campaign. He might even be sold out of everything on his campaign, which is crazy. But the idea is that that's an experimentation. And I feel like we're at a stage in Kickstarter where you need to try new ideas, try new rewards, try new concepts, try, a weird cover like International Pillow Day or not. I mean, International Bikini Day is not really a new thing, but I'll throw an example. There's International Trading Card Day. What would it be like if every cover of yours was a trading card variant and it was a 4-day event? Like, that's the type of thing that I feel that Kickstarter needs to go to. And I'm very curious how you feel about that, because I think your third campaign was very much in that vein of experimenting with something.
Yeah, no, I think, because obviously you don't want to keep, I guess my goal is I don't want to keep doing Kickstarters. I want to be able to kind of steer away from that, but I find that the Kickstarter crowd, because there's a lot of people in it right now. There's a lot of people in it. There's a lot of people looking at Kickstarter, as readers and investors and all that stuff as well. So that's the thing that kind of brings me back to it, is not so much like really the money at that point. The money helps. It's great. It allows you to make these rewards and try new things like we did with our issue 3, with the first two. The first one, it was kind of just figuring it out. Issue 2 was like, okay, we kind of figured some things out. Let's with more knowledge, let's try and sell issue 2. And then issue 3 was like, okay, let's figure out again, and right now I guess you can kind of blend the two. We're figuring things out again, and then we're also kind of giving people a good idea of what we got. We're dropping the 2 issues. We have a lot of cool rewards that we're going to be doing, a lot of exclusive rewards. We're kind of merging issue 2 Kickstarter, issue 3 Kickstarter together. Like I guess there's going to be 5 original pencils done by Demetrius, and anybody who knows us now, they know Demetrius is in Greece. So that stuff's going to be very exclusive stuff. So he sent, actually have them right here. I'm just going to show one because I don't want to damage them. But he sent me, they're here in person. So original pencils of duo characters that we'll have on the Kickstarter when it's live and all that stuff as well. So
let's actually talk about that too, because I'm a strong believer that there should be 2 tracks. And obviously, I mean, I got a concept that's coming when I get more money in my account. Obviously it's tax season, so I'm making sure that I'm all good, because I don't want to have a vacation in a federal penitentiary.
Sure, right.
I would prefer to have a nicer vacation, preferably on a beach. But I'm making sure that's okay first. But what is this like, where I am a strong believer there should be 2 tracks, where obviously you have a Kickstarter track, and maybe you have 4 covers that are only available on the Kickstarter. And maybe you have 150 of each cover, and it hits that niche and it helps get your book funded. And then you take more of the cover A and cover B. Maybe you have 2 separate covers beyond that are open to the general public, because I'm a strong believer that I don't think people should abandon Kickstarter. I think it's actually the wrong strategy. I think it's a wrong strategy, because there's people who only go on to Kickstarter. And I think when you start meeting, and I use WWE as the best example. WWE's best move they've ever made was not fusing with Endeavor. I could tell you that. That's a good move that they're doing and merging with them. But the best thing is that being on Peacock. Peacock is $5 and it has a lot of great content on Peacock that other people come to Peacock for, and then they get exposure to WWE for $5 versus being exclusively on their own network, the WWE network. And so it creates an easy track and access point. And there are people who will only come onto Kickstarter for their books.
Right. And I think that's what I think keeps bringing us back as well. And because I do know that fact, people do just go on Kickstarter to look. There's a crowd that does that, and if we get off Kickstarter, we're losing that crowd, we're losing that ability, we're losing that marketing tactic as well, because if you think about it, there's a lot of Facebook groups, there's a lot of shareable people out there as well that'll share your product. So you're almost limiting that marketing strategy as well. It's because you have those groups that'll help you. You have those groups that'll show it off and whatever. I think it's just a matter of making it interesting each time, because Kickstarter, it is a marketing tool.
Let me ask this, because it is the correct phrase maybe not to get off Kickstarter, but be Kickstarter dependent. Because I think those are two different things completely. Where I'll give an example with my own show. So when I ran my Kickstarter for this show, I was not Kickstarter dependent, where I was funded through sponsorships before I came onto Kickstarter. The Kickstarter money provided me more leniency.
More opportunity too, yeah.
And it provided me more cash so I don't have to come back again for a while. And so I don't have to come back for another year, and I might come back for season 5. And people be like, you ran it for season 3. Why didn't you do it for season 4? Well, I raised enough money between a sponsor beforehand and then Kickstarter money that I didn't need to come back again for another year or two. And I think that's where people get mixed up, in my opinion.
That's the best way to word it. And I think, you made it perfect. You laid out the foundation perfectly for me. And, although we're really not Kickstarter dependent, it's kind of goes half and half at that point. The reason we move with Kickstarter right now is because it helps it move it faster, and then on the other hand, right now as well, that I'm coming to figure out as time goes on, is it's its own marketing thing and its own, fashion. You have specific people, like we mentioned already, that go to Kickstarter, that look for projects on Kickstarter. I think it's just, you have to find that perfect thing and put it in the perfect spots. You have to find your donors and all that stuff, the people who are investing in your project. Like I said, I'm not going to pitch my zombie comic to somebody who likes space war and somebody who, on the other hand, somebody likes, apocalypse style. Doesn't matter. So who am I going to go to? I have to find that crowd. And, I think there is a crowd for it in the Kickstarter community. I think, the Kickstarter community right now is building each year. And I think as of right now, and as where I'm coming to, I think it would be a dumb thing. I think we just have to be more unique with the Kickstarters, rather than, like you said, I think you said it perfectly, is to not be dependent on it, is just to kind of use it as a marketing platform and have those people look at you from that, those lens.
And then let's even go further into that, because one of the things right now is that I came across a Kickstarter a little while ago, never heard of it, just went through it, and I'm like, man, that cover looks dope as fuck.
Yeah.
Didn't even care, never heard about it. It helped that the thing was at 15,000. So obviously when a book is at 15,000, 400% funded, that also helps to back something in a lot of ways. But because there is a sense of confidence when you're backer number 300 or you're back number 250 and you're not backer 1 and you never heard of it. You're like, okay, there's 249 other people who say this is something they want to see being made. But I looked at the cover and it was just scrolling through Kickstarter. And so there is the ability to capture that, but it was also a unique cover. I think it's like some weird thing too. I think it's like cyberpunk sex robots. Like, I don't even know what the hell it is. The cover looks cool. It's not like, not safe for work. It was just like, man, this purple and this like android cybernetic stuff looks trippy as fuck. And I'm like, it's going to be a cool comic to share on my Facebook wall. It's going to be a cool one to talk about. I could probably have a whole show talking about weird books, if I really want. And that's like going to be like the first episode. It's great. And then I backed another one that they did, because I thought the cover was cool too. And so but to me, that's experimentation. So what is that like too? Because I think that's really the secret to Kickstarter right now, is saying, what are you doing that's different, that's not going to bore the fuck out of me?
Sure, and I think, and that goes with the flooding of Kickstarter as well. There's so many projects on there. So the first thing I feel like people look for is, okay, unfortunately, is this thing already funded? Yes. Okay, so let's look at it. Now you're looking at it. Now you're trying to find something that catches your eye, and then you find these unique covers that are very exclusive to the Kickstarter. Then you're like, okay, this is cool, and I think you have to go down the box and check all the boxes off. And I think obviously the first one is are you funded, or are you close at least? Okay, yeah, so let's check this out. Now you check out the Kickstarter. Now you're quick scrolling, you see what catches your eye, then something catches your eye, then you're maybe reading it a little bit. I don't know if you do or not, but I feel like that's the third box. And then it kind of goes from there, and does it look well and professional and all that good stuff. Then you start checking the rewards, and all the other stuff kind of comes with it after that. But like, those are the first couple boxes I think you need to check before you start grabbing other people.
Also, isn't the idea of whose name is attached to it? So I'll give an example. If it's, Zenoscope, which is a well-established company, all of a sudden that I think also changes it, where I back projects from Zenoscope that were not fully funded, but I didn't care because
but you knew it. You knew it was gonna be. It's not like somebody new and all that stuff as well. And I think that's where it's important. Even like for people that listen to me, we've had 3 Kickstarters that were already done and fully funded and successful and all that stuff as well. So to kind of come back and as well, and if you're somebody new or watching or whatever, it's reassuring to the point, and to see, okay, there's at least a base here somewhat, right? And then it comes to the point where, okay, is this something that sounds like I would be interested in? Or is this something that looks cool? Does this artwork intrigue me? Is the story intrigue me? All that stuff kind of comes after, but yeah.
I mean, I'll be very honest. I mean, when I do my comic, and there are 2 projects in the works, one of them is definitely more traditional, and the other is definitely out there. I am purposely picking cover artists who have a following, because I'm aiming at the completionist, and I understand that it's a game, and that's also, I think that's a big thing right now, is that if you're a fan of cover artist A, B, or C, and you're a completionist, you're going to back that campaign. And it's so interesting. But again, I just think it's fascinating right now. And I think it's really interesting on Kickstarter. I'm curious your opinion on this, is where do you even think it's going? Because as we're talking about it, I know plenty of people who are struggling to fund. I know plenty of people who are spending money on Facebook ads, and it is hell and it is struggling. And I know plenty of people who are not having an issue at all. And, there's a bunch of people who they're saying it's hard, and people are paying attention to them, and maybe they don't deserve to be funded. Maybe they alienated a bunch of people and pissed off a bunch of people in the last 5 years. But even still, I know plenty of people who are decent people who are having a horrible time on Kickstarter right now.
Yeah, I don't know the exact answer. I can only tell you what I think just from what I see, like anybody else could, I guess. I think it's, you have to, there's more to it than simply making a Kickstarter and then just dropping it. And after that, you have to look at other people's Kickstarters. What's the rewards? What are they showing? What are they explaining? How does the Kickstarter look? The story and all that. What rewards do they have? And then on top of that, you have to be fucking busy. You have to do these. You have to talk. You have to be social media presence and all that stuff too.
It's interesting because there's a bunch of names, and I'm not going to say who have a good reputation, and they're working with major publishers that are doing their own Kickstarters, and their Kickstarter is struggling. And it is so confusing to me, because I'm like, you have a big deal and you're doing something that is cool and you have name recognition in the industry, yet your campaign is struggling, and I don't understand why. And it's so confusing to me as a consumer, because I'm like, this doesn't make sense, unless the issue is that if you're being pulled in 14 different directions, maybe this is the 13th or 14th thing, and it's fallen to the wayside, or maybe your book's not that good. And maybe issue 1 was okay, but maybe people caught on. And maybe that's why people are struggling too, is that, I hate to say it, but like if you put out an issue 1, people I think are willing to take a chance. But if they're not impressed at the end of issue 1 and you come back for issue 2 or even issue 3 and it wasn't impressive, or they don't feel that they got their money's worth, they're not coming back, because there is so many good projects out there.
Oh, right. Yeah. And I don't know. I really don't know. And I can't explain it. I mean, you would know more than I do. Like, do they have a
I
social
don't
media presence?
I'm confused. I'm confused on it. I'm genuinely confused.
Do they have a social media presence? I don't know.
They do. They do.
I don't know.
I mean, and like some of these people are my friends, and I'm just massively confused, because I'm like, you had a very big deal on the table, and it's a big deal. You're all over the place on that deal. But what's going on with your book? And it's only doing like 2% a day, and 2% a day growth. And that's on a good day. And I'm like, this is not working. And what is missing? I'm just genuinely confused, because I want to know what's not working in their campaign, not necessarily to help them, but what not to do.
Well, right, and that's the thing though too. And when you find that answer, come to me and let me know. But that's what I'm saying. Like it
It's
doesn't.
selfish, guys. This is about me. It's not about anybody else. I learn by looking at what people do right and what people do wrong, and I want to
Same here. Yeah. Sure. I like to be a sponge, and it sounds like you're very similar as well. I'd like to take an experience. I like to hear people's advice and all that stuff and kind of apply it in my own life and, my own experiences and, my tasks that pay as well, and I don't know. And I think that's a reasonable thing as well that you mentioned already. It could be their 10th, 11th, 12th project that they're working on that they're not focusing time on. But or even I feel like 5's too many. If you have like 5 projects in front of you and here's number 5 and you're like, here's this Kickstarter, this is cool, I did this, but I'm focused on these other 2, 3, 4, you have to. Kickstarter is not as easy as it could seem. You have to devote time and effort and be annoying. You have to be a salesman. You have to go up to people like, hey, did you get that yet? Because people forget. People don't, it's not on their mind all the time like it is yours. You have to go up to your friend or your cousin or whatever it is and go, hey, did you remember to get that for me? Or even that other, investor or donator and all that stuff. Did you get that yet? You got to be a salesman. You're selling yourself. And it's a lot of time. You have to be on interviews. You have to constantly post it and remind people that this is still going on because, like I said, this isn't on their mind every single day. They have a life, they have a job, they have kids, a family, whatever it is. And you just got to be a salesman. You have to be in their face about it.
Yeah, no, I think it's just complicated. I also think that just the whole thing is just massively just complicated, for lack of a better word again. But I also think, and I'm curious your opinion on this, I think one of the worst things that's happened for Kickstarter, I've been very outspoken about this, is that creators are now allowed to run back-to-back campaigns without having to deliver. So you could launch like a week right after you finished another one, and you don't have to now have it delivered or have it further along. And I think it's actually a very detrimental problem.
Yeah, that could be bad. I could see how that could be bad.
I understand the argument on the one side is that, well, Previews does it in comic shops. But my argument against that, and I'm very curious about your opinion, you can plead the fifth, by the way, at any time. Anytime you want to plead the fifth, be my guest. But my issue is that it works in Previews because guess what? If you don't get me your book, I get my money back.
Yeah, and
in Kickstarter, I don't get my money back, and all it takes is for you to dip into the cookie jar a little bit. And let's be realistic. I think people got exhausted in December. I think people overspent this Christmas. I think that people dipped into their Kickstarter cookie jar, and I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of May, June, and July books that are long overdue because people are getting their tax refunds that are going to help print their books. And I think that's coming, and I think a lot of books, because guess what? It happens. People dip into the cookie jar. COVID might have spoiled people a little bit, and then they take a little bit off the top, and then you got to get that money back. But Kickstarter B doesn't get you your money back, and then you got to go to Kickstarter C to cover A and B, and then you do D to cover C, and all of a sudden, that's called a Ponzi scheme.
Right. And I guess, to that point as well, to answer your first question though, is I could definitely see how that could be, you know, detrimental to anybody, buddy that's pledging or grabbing something, because then you don't even have your reward yet. At least have it all delivered, or like okay, I just shipped it or something. That's the way it used to be, right? It used to be like you can't start another one until everybody's order is at least shipped or fulfilled or whatever it is. Like I shipped it at this point. This is the shipping company. Get a hold of me if something happens. But
Kickstarter basically said, we want your money and we want your 10%. And we don't care about the backer, is how that ended. And I would love to have a conversation with Kickstarter about that. And I would love to know their rationale, because there is no other explanation on that, where they basically said, we want to allow creators to create more because it increases our revenue. I mean that's a controversial thing to say. And I have no problem saying it, because I get it, especially when you have creators doing 50,000 every month, and they can potentially do 50,000, and then Kickstarter gets their $5,000, and now Kickstarter is making 60,000 off of said creators launching a project every month. What do they care? And they screwed the customer. It's the most ridiculous thing. And then when you bring it up to these top creators making that money, they get very defensive very quickly.
Yeah, like I said, I could definitely see how that could be a problem, and a scare thing. I mean, at the end of the day, that could just be them shooting themselves in the foot, because if it comes down to the point where you have these people who are making the projects not fulfilling, and people are mad and bitching about it to Kickstarter and to the creator, and they're not doing it, there becomes more of that. You're just going to see a natural people just leave Kickstarter. So I guess they're gambling. Greed could shoot them in the foot, and I guess we'll see in due time. Because that's a natural thing. If people aren't getting their stuff, then it's done.
We've already seen this behavior in America multiple times, and this only ends the way I described it. It could happen in 2 years, it could happen in 10 years, but it will happen, and it will happen continuously, because there's going to get a point, especially with more projects, where Peter steals from Paul, right? Or Peter robs Paul, whatever it is. I don't know the saying. It's not off the top of my head, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. But the idea is that it's going to come, and it's going to be bad, and it's going to be ugly, because guess what? Just because these creators are doing that much money today doesn't mean they're going to continue to do it. And then they're going to take money off the cookie jar, and it's going to be bad. It's just going to be bad. And all it takes is a little trip over a pebble. And it raises another question, is that how many projects are too much? Because if you're doing 12 projects in a year, I hate to say this, but you can bleed your customer dry. And I use the analogy where you have a cow. There are two options with your cow. You could milk your cow and keep your cow alive and let it live a pretty happy relative life and make a little bit of money off of the milk every day or every other day. Or you can make a boatload of money in one fell swoop and kill it and have some hamburgers and meat, but then you don't have your cow anymore.
Yes, right, exactly. So it's one of those, you got to figure out which one you want to do, and my personal thing is I never, and I could say this, I never took out of the cookie jar that you're explaining. I think that's just poor business. It's like, if you really want this thing to succeed, it's just a dumb thing to do. The Avalon money is Avalon money. I'm not taking out of that for, oh shit, I forgot to pay this bill, I got to take out of Avalon. That you have to manage it all. It all. This is a business. Any comic that you got, any project that you're working on is a business. You can't take money out of it, because then that just ends up screwing over the business that you're trying to make and make successful. You have to put all that money towards this, and just be smart with your money. And the money that you get from the Kickstarter, obviously, if we're making assumptions off of people who, if they haven't done it or not, whatever, but I'm sure there's people that have. If you make money off the Kickstarter, that goes towards your project. If you want to make it successful in the long run, you can't just be like, oh shit, I got to pay my electric bill, I need $150 out of the cookie jar, and then take it out, and then that's $150 that could have bought you a table at a Comic-Con or something, anything, or $150 worth of social media ads. It's just be smart, money management, business management, and all that stuff.
It's one of the biggest problems in comics right now is most people do not understand that you're running a business. I run an eBay business. I'm at the point where it's taking me a long while to figure out how to take a distribution out of my business, but my business is healthy enough to take a distribution. But people say, "Oh, Andrew, you're doing X amount in sales. You could back my book." And I'm like, not really,
Right.
because it doesn't work that way. Or you could afford a retail package. And I'm like, not really. It doesn't work that way where my distributions tend to be large, but you also have to realize that what I do with my distributions and I pump money back in and it also is cash flowed. But I also have, product that gets a 3 to 4x rate of return for a
Yeah.
reason. And that's why I don't back people's retail packages unless I believe I can get a 2x or better rate of return, because it's not 2x. If I buy a book for 10, I sell for 20, I'm not making $10 on you. There's fees involved. There's other expenditures involved.
Shipping. Yeah. You have to pay for the shipping from the Kickstarter. Then you have to pay for, probably, unless you make them pay for the shipping to ship it out
It's
to them.
the shipping is not even the issue. eBay takes 13%. There's taxes
Okay.
involved. There's
Yeah.
capital gain taxes involved. I mean, there's a lot of other things that go into it where when you're running a business that people don't realize, eBay takes 13% off of every single sale. So if I sell a book for $20, 13% comes out of that 20 before I even see a dime.
Yeah. No.
Also
Yeah.
take 13% off of the shipping. So if I charge $10 shipping, they take 13% off of $30. Then I have to subtract out of that my 10 that I paid for the book. Then I take a third out for taxes, and then whatever's left over is my profit.
Well, yeah, after all that stuff, it could be little or it could be big, but the problem is like you said, like the retail thing has to be worth it at a level where the percentage is higher, because because the thing is, you're not going to buy it if you can't make money off of it. You need to be able to make money off of it.
The only time I would not, if there's a book that I know is going to bring somebody to my store and I break even on it or I lose 20 cents on it, but it's going to bring 10,000 people to my store, no brainer to pick it
Sure,
up,
right, yeah,
because the volume will make up for it. Or if I know that, if they buy this book, they're going to buy 15 other books. Somebody just bought a book that I'm making $2 on, but they bought a bunch of other books in my store too.
right.
And
So that, like you said, that brings somebody in there to check your store out. Like you said, if you know it's bringing people that like fans of this kind of world, comic books or whatever it might be, they're looking at other products on your store, and you're making an investment off of that. But I do get it, because you have to scheme it out in your own category as well. You can't just sit there and go, okay, let me just help this guy out. Because if you start helping all these people out, I'm buying retail packages, you're going to be sitting on probably a lot of them. You know what I mean? That's why a lot of comic book stores, it's the same thing. Similar to the way you look at it with your eBay store. Stores don't want comics just sitting on their shelves. They want to sell comic books. So when you go there, you have to show them, okay, this is something worth buying. Like, look, this is what I sold. This is what is bringing in. You have to kind of like sell them on it. You can't just be like, hey, do you want to sell my comic in your store? No, I don't know who you are. I don't know what this thing's doing.
it's
Collect
also
dust.
tricky where I speak to a lot of comic people and I'm getting into retail, I'm getting into exclusives, and I'm like, look, I'll throw Dustin Burnell, Eternal Comics. They have a deal where you can get 50 comics for $400. So I think it's four a book. I think it's 4 a book. It might be 8 a book. I'm not my math. I think it's $8 a book now that I think about it. So if I know I could sell those books for $15 or $16, I can double my money. So all of a sudden, what winds up happening is that there's an ability for me to make money in that deal. But then somebody else, I'm not going to mention who, wanted to sell me 15 of his comics for $300. And it doesn't work. Or he wanted to sell me like 30 for $300, and that's $10 a book. That's a lot of money for 30 books.
Yeah, you need to sell them at a wholesale. You need to be able to take not a huge percent. You need to be able to take a percentage off of it. You're buying them at a wholesale price, and you need to be able to make money off of it. Like the point is you make money off it as the creator. If I'm selling you a bunch of comics to sell in your store, I'm giving you a wholesale price, and the reason I'm doing that is so I can get more eyes. The hope and the the idea is I can get more eyes on my project.
There's a few things. It's that. It's also the idea that if I want to cover A of issues 4 and 5 of Avalon, and I want 10 of each, you can print Avalon at a much cheaper rate. Where if you have 100 of me, or you have 5 of me, and we're ordering 50 extra copies, hopefully that can help to lower your costs.
Exactly.
When you print it, even if it lowers your cost by 5 cents per book, or even 3 cents per book, or even 1 cent a book, that's why you're passing the discount on to me, is that you might now order. So you might be ordering 350 copies, but now if I order 50 of each one, you're ordering 400, and that lowers your printing cost per book by a cent. But it lowers it for every single book, not just my books.
Exactly. So you're making that, or you're spending less on all those comic books and all that as well. And I get that, and my thing right now, especially just starting out, is it's just great to have the eyes on it, and the reason I would want them in stores is to have eyes on them. It's not so much like, here, take them and hope you make money off of them. I want people to see the title. I want people to see it and go, oh, I recognize that. I've seen it here. It just, that's the way I look at it right now. I'm not really in a thing where I'm like, I need to make money. I need to make money. I need to make money right now. I want to just make sure people right now see it, like it, and come back. The making money thing to me comes later. I just want to keep pushing money into it, show people what this is, show it off, and that's that. But money comes later to me. I don't know. That's the way my head is.
I have a very different viewpoint, but then again, when I run my thing, my theory is very different. There, I think I agree with the traditional Kickstarter model. I think every creator should create their own exclusive for their book and sell it separately outside of the Kickstarter. And I think they should sell it either at a con, but they should say, cool, this is an issue D, but it's not on the Kickstarter. And then they should be making that at a premium value. And I think that's one of the biggest things that a lot of creators don't get creative, saying, cool, if I believe in my product, why don't I create my own variant and produce 100 of them? And that's $2,000 out of nowhere. And you're not getting rich, but it is a subsidy that is paid directly to you, and it doesn't impact the campaign, and it doesn't hurt the business, but it allows you, the creator, instead of getting, you're trading, essentially getting a piece out of the business for getting something that the business can produce that might cost you $500. But if you're printing, it can be in subsidy with the business, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. And we've done that similar to, we make our exclusives, like with the last couple Kickstarters. We made our exclusives, our standard cover A. We made our cover B, and with the last one, we made a cover C. Our cover C was only to be sold on that Kickstarter at that point. We have, so I ordered a little bit extra. I think there's 5 extra that 5. I'm looking at them right now. I will only sell those at events, and those are going to be the only ones you can get now.
I mean, I'm taking it even a step further than that. Sure. I'm talking about cover D. Outside that's just 100%, for you.
Sure.
And exactly. For your writer, and everybody on the team can go create their own exclusive that is theirs. Sure. And that is how they can get paid, especially when you go to events where you could sell them however you want to sell them. But that's the whole thing, where that's just a creative way how to get paid through product. And you're basically taking something where you have a license out of the Kickstarter. And this is one of the things with my team. When I do write a comic, I'm going to say to my artist, I'm going to say, look, here's what I'm suggesting. And I'm just going to offer it to my team, saying, if you want to do a 100 print run that's yours outside of this, I'll grant you a free license to do it. I'll do the same thing if I have an inker or a colorist, or if I have an editor or whoever. And if we have a team of 4 people, because that's what I'm going to do. Because it's just going to be, and it works for me because I have an eBay store. So automatically it works for me because I have infrastructure already in place. But it would be really ridiculous for me to be the only one who does it, or have the option to do it rather than everybody else on my team. So I don't get to touch my artist's variant, and they can't touch mine, and they have no claim to it. They have a claim to cover C if we're 50-50 partners.
Sure, I see what you're saying in the category of all that as well, and it's almost a name your price kind of deal. You take it here, like this is mine, this is what it is, and all that stuff as well. And I get that, and um, I think we're taking baby steps in that direction, and it definitely makes sense. I could definitely see that making sense, and working out too, and making the money and making the revenue for that as well.
But I digress. In which I'm very creative,
Mhm.
and apparently people do not like my creativity anymore. I've learned that the hard way. I'm very creative, and I find different ways because again, you need money to eat, and it's nice to get a little bonus.
Yeah, of
We're
course.
not talking about making millions of dollars, but if you do 2 campaigns a year and you're able to pull in an extra $5,000 for yourself, it can go a long way, and it could also make it that this is worth it and it also can grant you, especially if you and your artists are not in the same town, the same state. Because if I have an artist on the West Coast and I'm on the East Coast, we're never gonna really be at the same con unless I fly out there, or he flies out to me, or she flies out to me, or we're gonna meet somewhere in the middle at like C2E2. So it makes sense for me to have my own line of variants and for her or him to have his and make the money that way and then have collective stuff and it works. Because guess what? If somebody likes his variant and is a completionist, they're gonna want my variant, and they're gonna find it and spend money for it. And so it's just good business all around.
Yeah, no, I could definitely get that too. I actually like that. It definitely makes sense. And I could see that working out. I could see that working out for every party that has one. And it brings eyes to it. It brings that exclusive, like I need to have it kind of feel to it as well. And it helps out.
And then there's a bunch of other stuff. Obviously, you showed one of them already before. I think these are the sketches.
Yep. That's the Ty and Mason sketch as well. But yeah, that's exactly it too. With the exclusive stuff, that's a one-time thing. So it's obviously signed by him as well, and him being from Greece makes it all that much more exclusive. It's not going to happen very often.
So that's something that's going to be on the upcoming campaign and a lot of other stuff. And obviously, there's a bunch of stuff coming, and
Yeah.
obviously, this is the start of the arc unwinding, for lack of a better word, where
Yep.
we're getting to finalization of season 1 here.
Yeah, exactly. And it's coming down to that second half of this season here. And what just being a fan of the genre, my favorite issue coming up is issue 6. Not just to be stupid or cliche, but you got to get the last one. But it is. It's written really well. In the category of having me, Callie, Alan, and kind of all go through it and all that stuff too, and making that. We made our adjustments to it as well, and we're really excited for this one to be on paper and have Demetrius write or draw it out and illustrate it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff, and obviously, though, we're not going to push the cart before the horse here because obviously we got issues 4 and 5. When is
Exactly.
that exactly launching? Because I know it's still in pre-launch, but
It's
obviously,
it's gonna be launching either the 21st of this month or the 28th. It's going to be one of those 2 days here. We're going to figure that out actually at the end of this week when it's supposed to officially launch, but it's going to be the 21st or the 28th. But it is coming out for sure this month.
and then obviously, I mean, we covered a bunch of it, and I do want to back out of all of this, and we kind of touched upon this a little bit, but I definitely want to end with this question before we, give you a chance to self-promote. Obviously, I do want to talk about pop culture because there's a lot of stuff going on in pop culture. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. Obviously, Netflix, from Netflix all the way down to WWE being basically bought and merging with the UFC company Endeavor and everything else that's going on in pop culture and how it's evolved and how it's gone all upside down and everything is sort of happening and how a lot of comic properties are being optioned and licensed. Actually, Pat Chan's Destiny New York, Casey Bowers, Hollowed is, I think, on the table, option / in development, and a variety of other things are also in development. But that doesn't mean anything in reality until it's actually being filmed, shot, and released.
Right.
Development doesn't mean anything because there's so many things that are in development. But where do you feel pop culture is going and even how it's relating to comics? Because it's everything seems to be getting optioned. Everything seems to be optionable at this point. and I feel like nothing is off the table.
Yeah, I think that alone, you kind of stole the words right out of my mouth there. I think everything has a potential of being something on the live screen or anything, in any creative manner. I think everything is fair game. We're in that era, I feel like, where it's like, okay, we have to find what sticks again. I feel like we went through that phase, like, with the Marvel, I'm talking big, I guess, with Marvel. They went through their arc, they're kind of on their downward spiral with that, specifically. But now we're in that era, I feel like, where we're kind of throwing shit on the wall and seeing what sticks, and I feel like everybody's kind of doing everything, and everything's open, everything's fair game, and I think it's going to be a very unique time frame of projects coming out, or anything coming out in pop culture, I guess. It's going to be a very unique time, I feel like, within the next 5 years here, of seeing what's coming out.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm curious on what exactly is going to stick, what isn't, and I got a feeling there's going to be a lot of surprises on what works, what doesn't, and I got a feeling that I'll make a spoiler for everybody. I believe Disney, Peacock, Warner Brothers Discovery, HBO Max, Showtime, Paramount Plus, and Netflix are here to stay. I know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. I know. I don't know if this YouTube thing is gonna make it though. I don't know. I don't know if this Facebook Live stuff's gonna make it. I don't know if Rumble's gonna make it. This streaming thing is probably gonna go out of existence sometime soon. Really controversial stuff, guys. I don't know. I might get canceled for it all, but I'm just saying. I'm just saying that Netflix thing. Disney. I'm just saying that I think they're here to stay. But people could disagree with me. Feel free to disagree with me on that, everybody. But I digress. I do want to give you a chance to self-promote yourself, unless you disagree with anything I said of those things making it.
Well, no, I think you're right, and those things they're definitely here to stay. I don't know so much about the streaming world, if that's gonna sit there and kind of.
I think streaming's done, guys. It's just done. We're gonna end it. It's gonna be over. It had a good run. I may or may not be part of it ending, because they might have realized that this is the greatest thing that's ever happened, and that everything's gonna go downhill from here. And so, why bother to try? We should end this on a high note, like Seinfeld or Breaking Bad.
No, I mean,
why compete? That's all I'm gonna say. Why compete when I'm the greatest?
You heard it right here, guys. Come on. But yeah, no, I don't know enough about it, streaming world, so I don't know what's happening with that. But I do agree with you in the category that Netflix and all that stuff's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's a new way. All that good stuff. But Kickstarter is going to be releasing here in the next couple weeks here at the end of April. Big stuff coming, big rewards coming. We're working on new rewards still. Obviously, we're in the pre-launch stage. We're excited for this Kickstarter. We're excited for the story progression as well. If you're a fan of a good story, Avalon has it. We've heard it from a bunch of people. We're excited about it as well. We love hearing people loving our story and all that stuff as well. That really gives us the confidence to keep moving, and to add cool things as well. To build the team even bigger. Like I mentioned as well, we added a writer, Callie Oberlander. She has a podcast, the Tia and Ria Show. Check that out on Spotify or iTunes as well. Good podcast. It's the reason she's on this show, or the reason she's on this comic now, is because the show is good. She's a good writer. But yeah, just stand by, get ready. We'll be around. We're always going to be around. Just look for us.
And then I'm going to keep saying it, and I'm going to keep, putting it out there that you have to support what you like. That means that you have to back Kickstarters of people's books that you like. You have to, follow them on social media. You have to share out their Kickstarters. You have to share out their comics. If you miss their comic on a Kickstarter and they got a website, you should definitely pick it up there. If you see them at a con, you should pick up their book. If they have exclusives that you didn't get, or con exclusives, again, you should be picking that stuff up, because it does go to support the book. T-shirts, merch, anything like that always helps. And obviously, interacting with them on social media is a very big deal. Mm-hmm. And it's very important at this point, to do that, because liking something on Twitter, liking an Instagram post, sharing a Facebook post, liking a Facebook post, it goes a long way, and you don't know what it's going to do with the algorithms, and you never know who's going to see what you share out there. It could very well be that you share something on your wall and then somebody's like, cool, this book looks interesting, and all of a sudden they become a backer. And it makes a big difference. And if a lot of people share a lot of stuff, obviously, somebody's project will go further. It's very important. And then as far as I'm concerned, I got a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, my ad rates, if you want to advertise on this show, are available in the description down below, as well as you can follow me on Twitter at Pop Anime Comics, Facebook Pop Anime Comics, Instagram's Pop Anime Comics. Subscribing on YouTube is free. That's Pop Anime Comics. I can promise you that you will find an interview that will entertain you. It will not make you smarter. It can, but it might not. But I can promise you that you will be entertained to your delight. So definitely check that out. And again, it means a lot because it's free, and I'll be damned if you do not find an interview for you on my YouTube channel. I have t-shirts and everything else. I have also Buy Me a Coffee if you want to support independent media. It's not a requirement, but it's always appreciated. And that's everything that I have going on. And on that note, I'm going to give you the final word.
Just everything he said and more, like, share, stay tuned, look for us, all that good stuff. Stay tuned for our Kickstarter coming up, like I mentioned, and find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. We're always up to date with our social medias. We always have cool, unique kind of 2-week merch stores that we have up as well. So just stay tuned. We're always keeping updated. Talk to us. You have any questions or anything like that as well. We're always responsive as well. We always want to respond and have good chats with everybody as well. So Avalon Comic is on all of our social media platforms as well. Just search that and you will be able to find us. We have a link tree always tagged to our social medias as well.
And I think, everybody, that is a wrap.